All right, so we have Ufuk Gür as a lecturer and facilitator today. She is a senior researcher in innovation and entrepreneurship, specifically specialized in deep tech venture creation, commercialization, and ecosystem development. Currently, she is a visiting researcher at Deep Tech Innovation Group at Vrije Universiteit Amsterdam, and she is also a visiting researcher at Delft Center for Entrepreneurship. And she was also with us in the team in the development of this Deep Tech Launchpad program. And she holds a PhD in academic entrepreneurship in science and engineering. And currently, she is also head of research at House Istanbul Amsterdam. They're working at the intersection of research, innovation, and strategic communications. She is here with us, sharing her experience in deep tech ventures and ecosystems and business model development. And without further ado, I would like to give the stage to Ufuk. Yeah, thank you, Ufuk, for being here today and sharing everything.
Yeah, okay. Thank you very much, Elif, for introducing me. I think everyone can hear me well, right? Just to check out.
No.
Yes, perfect.
You hear me? Okay, great. Let me organize. Okay, welcome to this session again. This is going to be about developing business models in deep tech, particularly. So we are trying to, in this model, explore how business modeling in deep tech is essentially different than conventional business models, especially in digital business models. So we say that business model is a clear articulation of how will business make money. But first of all, we need to understand that in almost every business, doesn't matter if it's deep tech or not, there's not a fixed single business model starting early on. So it's gonna be open to evolving, and it's gonna be open to changing, transforming according to the insights you gain throughout your journey. So it's a tool for navigating high uncertainty, which is the case in mostly deep tech settings. So before you reach out to the product market fit, which is years after in deep tech settings, you still need to have a working, operating model of how you will exactly keep your idea alive and keep your learning. So this is exactly important for this value of that, when you need to overcome some certain barriers in terms of technological uncertainty and market uncertainty. And after the product market fits, which means that you secured technological and market validation, you have a business model in execution. Then it's more close to the market. And because you know already what your market is, you try to perform in a non-market anymore. But this is years after that, like we have mentioned. So when you see the canvas today, which is essentially here, our purpose is not to fill in them like with superficial assumptions, but to look at it in a way that it allows us learn to design how to test our hypothesis about the dimensions of our business. So we'll break down this across technology readiness levels in order to better articulate how partnerships, fundings, different strategies really evolves with the changing business logic. So back to the definition of the business model. With a business model, we try to articulate how a business creates, delivers, and captures value. And we first start a value proposition. So it is about the why of our existence. So what do we really want to create as a value? So in deep tech context, of course, it starts with scientific breakthroughs. but we must reframe it. So when you frame it as a single scientific breakthrough, it doesn't mean anything to the market actors. So we need to reframe in terms of value to a stakeholder. That's gonna take place in our maybe greater ecosystem that's gonna validate our technology and business. So we can also say that in early TRL stages, these are mostly conceptual. So value propositions are mostly value hypotheses, but you still have a value proposition. And we identify mostly a market segment that we want to serve. So we explicitly say who is the solution for. As you will understand, at early stages, it's still not possible to identify a clear market segment in deep tech. But initial users will have maybe early adopters of our business later on may turn out to be our customers, but you can still pivot to a different market. So at the end, it depends on who might value our technology and who will really pay for it, for this tech, under what conditions. And the rest of the definition of the business model defines our place, position in the value chain, how we will really generate revenues out of this wholly performing mechanism, and how we can really have a specification of a competitive business strategy that will differentiate us over rivals. So it's almost obvious it's going to be our technological innovation in deep tech context. So here you see the general dimensions of a typical business model canvas, which is really common in most entrepreneurial context, like this kind of trainings and incubators, accelerators. But as we will see, we'll have different reframings when it comes to deep tech. So just as a reminder, what is the difference of deep tech compared to a digital tech or a conventional business model? It's mostly about, of course, science and research. Here it says competitive advantage is about idea. On the other hand, execution doesn't really promote that. Here, it's also important, of course, idea plus execution. But at the core, our value proposition is about a transcendence, a breakthrough technology. And when you look at the examples of industries, you clearly make sense. It's nanotech, biotech, materials, machines. And on the other hand, you see fintech, e-commerce, software as a service, and similar businesses. So here I provide a food for thought for you to just take a couple of seconds to think about. And maybe you can also write your ventures that comes out of your mind about these kind of physical products in deep tech. And maybe authorities and thought leaders, we could say, nominate these deep tech ventures with physical products or with hybrid innovations, which embed hardware and software all together. They are likely to be the next unicorns of the next decade, because these are really defensible businesses with strong barriers to entry, which means that prevents other businesses to enter the same market easily. So a basic mindset of a competitive business. So if you ever think of such ventures in your own domain, which have physical products, and maybe combined software, you can just type in the chat when I just transit to the other slide. So here I also put this as a reminder of our journey at the TRL stages. So We start with research and development. We provide the proof of concept of the technology. Then we incorporate, then we demonstrate with maybe industry, together with industry players, and it gets closer to the commercial maturity. When we look at it as a business model evolving, we see that it brings us a dynamic mindset in business model development. As you can see here, we have the level of development on the horizontal axis and our resources on the vertical axis. You can clearly see the weight of government resources at the very early stages, and how you are embedded currently, for example, in academic settings, in lab environments. And then it turns out to be this weight decreases and the weight of industry comes into play, because we then start to develop with the industry, start to demonstrate to them, start to write license agreements, start to commercialize. So we clearly say that business models must evolve as the technology matures, but these take times, years, of course. So as we have seen in the early stages of this journey, we need to clearly propose a value, even we are at the very early stage. So how does it really look like at technology readiness levels, elaborated on different levels? Let's see. Before I explain this, I also would like to define what feasibility, desirability, and viability is, because it's also a common wording in entrepreneurial settings. Feasibility means, can we really do it? We have an idea. It can be a technological idea, or it can be any conventional business. It can it really work? So can we really build it in these kind of terms? But on the other hand, you also pay attention to, is it really buildable in terms of maybe regulations, in terms of other resources? Feasibility refers to that. And we come to desirability. It means, does anyone want this solution? Is it possible? And viability is the question about, can we really build it in a financially sustainable way? So taking this as a pre-note to our slide, in the early stages, we can say that our key focus is scientific validation of our technology. So we focus on lab experiments, theoretical models, and we can still focus on, does anyone want it? And how can we really do that? We need to engage with academy, industry experts, and potential industrial maybe adopters. So these early conversations brings us to a point where we need to take maybe a new step, a different step in piloting even our technology. And viability, of course, we won't know if the technology will be successful, but we still need to be alive. We need to keep the venture idea, technological idea alive. So we rely on non-commercial, maybe means of financing, which means these are grants, research funding, and sometimes public-private partnerships. So our business model adaptation embeds all of these realities. In the next stage, where the prototyping and validation is essential, we need to still understand if our prototype is working, and if industry is really paying attention and showing some level of interest. And for the desirability part, we see that pilot users will emerge, and these mostly will provide some key resources to us to prove that technology. And for the viability part, this is the most maybe fatal stage, where we have the value of that, because we need to still rely on some grants, some maybe advanced level of funding, but some glimpse of interest also comes from corporate venture capital, angel investors, and sometimes the venture capital industry. And statistics show that recently in a report that I read, it says venture capital is funding deep tech ventures earlier in the next stages, next year. So it means that they will be in the game earlier in the stage. So maybe earlier in the TRL 1, 2, 3 stage. And how do we really adapt our business model here? So we exactly execute a grant to equity transition in terms of our revenue structure. And of course, we have a protected IP and we engage in regulatory plannings, and we almost go out there to establish strategic partnerships for testing and co-development, because in deep tech, this mostly requires important investments in maybe infrastructure and pilot test beds and so on. And when it comes to scaling and commercialization, this is exactly a working market business model, because we have already validated pilot projects. We try to move to the industrial scale. We have clear markets, and we have already signed contracts. We have already secured some certifications, some regulatory approvals. So it's the time when you turn out to be a real business that is selling, that has sales operations, that has some sort of established more major operations. So this is where, when and for example, initial public offerings in the markets comes into play. And maybe we should be reframe this slide as not for thought, but as a key takeaway. So we clearly see that we need transition from feasibility, where we consider the technological validity, to viability, that we can do it in a financially sustainable way. And it requires staged monetization, which means that we transit from grants to the real money that is coming from revenues. So we can continue with value creation in deep tech. So maybe you have already known about this. You are familiar with these facts, but it's also nice to remember. So we have a value proposition that is about scientific knowledge frontier. But our ultimate goal is not to produce abstract knowledge. So the value creation in deep tech relies at the core of how we can really translate this knowledge into it is really groundbreaking for the industry. So, of course, we have highly defensible intellectual property. So mostly we combine these physical assets with intangible knowledge assets, relying on even in our talent. And deep tech ventures can also serve a wide range of different customers and end markets. So, of course, it has industrial applications, but overall we can say that deep techs are mostly mission-driven, which means that they try to address important societal global challenges and make a difference in the world in that way. And coming to the value propositions in deep tech, these are the selection of frequently framed value propositions. And starting with the science-based differentiation, in Earth, it's almost about unique scientific mechanisms that you employ in your research. and you try to show it with lab validations, and in later stages it's validated as a technology with protected IP, and then you can clearly show the superior performances, and you can show the capabilities you already demonstrated. So it's a little bit different in early stage and later stages, but it's basically science-based differentiation. I will also explain some of them. There is also this, for example, socioeconomic relevance. So it's mostly about more general societal benefits in the early stages of the framing value propositions. And later stages, it's more, it becomes more about being tied to measurable societal goals, because you already proved some of the metrics that you have defined beforehand, and you can clearly show that this is the socioeconomic relevance of our technology. So I'm going to show you a little more details in here of each of these different value propositions. I would like you to take a couple of minutes to read these different value propositions and maybe write in the chat or just think about it. Doesn't matter which value propositions resonate mostly with your current research or current technology or current venture if you already incorporated. So let's take a couple of minutes to see what is really going on in terms of value propositions in your own cases. Okay, let's wrap up. If you already put your perspectives into the chat, thank you very much. We can also revisit this value proposition later on in another discussion. So I would like to keep moving with the other dimension in the business model. So we talked about the value proposition, and we come to the desirability part. And we talked about if ever any customer wants our solution. So in deep tech context, we can see that we mostly try to sell to businesses or governments. Why is this so? Because we try to develop, mostly this is the case, a really spectacular technology, a technological breakthrough that can be adopted in a really high investment maybe setting. So this becomes mostly B2B or B2G, business to business or business to government business models. But there are exceptions, of course. I know this, for example, animal biotech company in which the founders developed a drug, a medicine for dog owners. I mean, the dogs are taking it, but they are selling to the dog owners. So they are the end users. And this drug was a scientific breakthrough for the quality of life of dogs. So that was kind of an exception for me because I rarely see this kind of examples. And we can say that mostly this means that this kind of deep tech ventures scale to sometimes even to 3 to 5 customers. So it's pretty enough for them to make big revenues with their strategic partnerships. And for example, we can see that in quantum technology environment, of course, it's a very hard example because the commercialization stage is really still early there. But if we see a quantum timing venture try to sell their solution, we will mostly see a defense agency or a telecom infrastructure provider as their first customer or maybe the only customer. So we say that many deep tech startups built for highly specialized B2B verticals, which are the examples here. For example, you try to provide an AI analytics to the biotech industry. You try to provide photonic solutions in data centers. And another typical customer segment consideration is we mostly try to target multi-stakeholder environments. So different than in conventional businesses, customers come with their whole ecosystem. So these industrial adapters also take into account their regulators and the other types of their partners in their own ecosystem. And these early adopters turn out to be venture clients in the future. They serve not only as customers but also as development partners. Like we mentioned, in the early stages, we need demonstration partners, for example, which can turn out to be the regular customers in the later commercialization stage. These provide validation use cases, feedback loops, and then turns out to be the exact use case in the industry. And we can also say that these little number of customers expect from us to co-develop with them, and they have mostly long sales cycles and they have very strategic expectations. So we try to establish a long-term relationship with these customers. And coming to the channels, like everything we discuss here is interdependent to each other, because here we say there is an ecosystem-based go-to-market channel for us. So as we rely on this kind of collaborations with all of these actors, we use their maybe already given infrastructures for market access, use their sandbox testing environments, maybe collaborate with them in grant-based programs. And another thing is we have a phase demonstration. So if you're a typical conventional business, you might just demonstrate your product and find a sales opportunity, and you can close the sales easily. But here we speak of a phase demonstration, which means that we exactly need to move from lab prototype to field pilots to scaled market access, and this can all happen throughout the years, not in months. And coming to the customer relationships, obviously it's about co-development mindset, as we already mentioned. And we need to be strategic with our partners. And it's not a game of selling and getting the money in a transactional way. It's about building together towards a mutual goal. And we need to understand that we have to integrate into their systems. And these are mostly not standalone products. So we need to understand their value chain exactly. And for most buyers, we can also see the chain of events, like we have to validate before we close the sales. So it becomes of a matter of system level fit. And deep tech firms mostly engage in technology broadcasting to understand and explore unthinkable market opportunities. So this can also bring us some kind of value discovery beyond the initially thought target markets. And we can really move from exploration together with the partners to product co-developments, and to finally sell in the way that they can procure, they can have the distribution rights, we can license to them, and it's a fully commercialized product. And for the key resources part, of course, our protected IP are key resource at the very core of our business model. And highly specialized teams that we built are also very important. And the partners that we collaborate with, for example, large corporates, provide some complementary resources, mostly in-kind contributions in terms of scale-up facilities, regulatory expertise. And over that, we also need some sort of different human capital that can help us, support us in our team, or maybe throughout the accelerators or incubators that we join. And these are mostly entrepreneurial, managerial, technical, regulatory, legal talents. There are, for example, industries that are that have regulatory talent prevalent, such as biotech. So you need to understand that you need this kind of people around you to establish a strong, defensible, working business model. And what turns out to be a key resource for us is also the ecosystem actors. So if they are reputable actors in the ecosystem, cooperating with them, collaborating with them, become critical resources in our de-risking processes. And technical depth, IP protection, business design capacity, regulatory legal infrastructure comes with our really strong corporate partners from the industry. And access to infrastructures, and sometimes if it's about platform compatibility as a system level fit consideration, turns out to be a strategic resource beyond IP and founders. And if we can ever secure access this kind of cryo labs, nanolab facilities, such as clean rooms and advanced pilot lines, which require really deep investment, it means that we really secured a scaling pathway for our deep tech venture. So what do we really do while trying to realize this kind of a deep tech venture? First thing that we do is to protect our IP and to drive a roadmap for our technology. So as we have mentioned, we don't just execute science here. We just try to drive this kind of roadmaps to understand our milestones and to check if we are really on the path. And another key activity is market exploration. As we don't know yet what kind of problem can we really solve in the industry with our current technology at hand, we need to understand, we need to explore these kind of use cases and potential implications in the industry. Another thing that we do is to orchestrate our ecosystem. So you engage in shaping standards, forming consortiums, and maybe if it's a radical innovation in a key value chain, you need to lead, sometimes co-lead, of course, with your partners, this value chain transformation. And you need to mostly educate your customers. And there will be intense feedback loops with all your partners in the academy, industry, and public environment. Accessing and utilizing facilities is a key activity that you will do because it's mostly about taking your technology in a really working, market-ready product. And key partnerships. This will resonate with customer segments I mentioned because our key partners sometimes turn out to be our customers. So we do not operate in isolation. We must engage this kind of partners all from the start. So we sometimes establish strategic alliances, and these dispersed over decades sometimes. And what we do is co-investing with those kind of partners in long-term capabilities. And another key partner in deep tech environment is the cross-border, I think, funding, because of different funding capabilities in different economic regions. We clearly see that deep techs mostly go out there for non-European venture capitals, corporates, and sovereign funds. And these are almost required for scaling to the TRL maybe 8 to 9 levels. And coming to the value capturing, the financial viability. So what do we look at? It's simple. We look at costs, we look at revenues. So in the cost structure, it's, I think, very clear that we need high capital because we will have high fixed costs in order to turn this technology into a working one. So it can be about materials R&D, it can be constructing a pilot plant, it can be securing certifications, securing regulatory compliances, and you see a clear pattern after you reach out to a certain point. Once your technology is proven, you clearly see that marginal cost curves might reduce because of you secured that kind of proven technology. You secure more corporates, you attract more funding and more bigger amounts. And the revenue streams. These are, again, I think very clear. At the very early stages, we mentioned our funding is more reliant on grants and public-private partnerships. Then it turns out to be a clear revenue strategy, such as licensing our technology, co-developing products ready to market, and revenue sharing coming from already commercialized products. So it's important to understand, again, I'm saying this transition, this stage monetization strategy in revenue. And I have roughly a couple of minutes left, so I'm gonna share some fundamental revenue models in deep tech businesses. First one is tech and software as a service. So it's basically prevalent in software and analytics deep tech ventures. So you try to sell your software, not one time. You try to create a steady recurring revenue stream. You can see the different subscription strategies below in post-session readings. And there's another revenue model. It's called technology as a service. So here you sell the technology as a service. You sell high-tech machinery, lab equipment, software algorithms on a subscription or pay-per-use basis. This is also prevalent in industries like semiconductor manufacturing or pharmaceuticals, where the upfront investment for these kind of industry players in these kind of technologies is really prohibitive. And tech as a supply, typical product sales, but you can still make them turn them out to subscription models. So you can provide service and maintenance to this kind of product buyers. Tech and royalties, here we try to sell what we have as a protected IP protected technology, and you can license these patents to other firms. These can provide a significant source of revenue to your company. And another important revenue model for deep tech companies is research and development services. Here you provide some kind of custom research projects for the industry players throughout some maybe research agreements or government contracting. So you create an important stream of revenue for your business.